Welcome to the Living in the Future podcast, where we bring to light specialized topics from life in the modern age. I'm here with Gary Tews, creator of the DVDBeaver website, which is a website that does deep comparisons of various home video releases and includes detailed reviews. Gary, how'd the site get started?
Maybe 20 years ago, I was always interested in film. I remember when I was quite young watching Charlie Chaplin Festival on public television, and of course when the video era came, I was always going to. We had a bunch of video stores up here in Toronto, and I would rent videos, and I got into then appreciating foreign films, just because I hadn't been exposed to a lot of them. And in the video store, the section that had them, I eventually had seen them all. There was Kieślowski and a number of stuff around that time. I guess that would have been in the 90s or late 80s. And so I wanted to see more. I didn't really have another avenue to do it. I got into laser discs for a little while, and there was actually a place that was relatively close that rented laser discs, just like they'd rent VHS tapes. So that expanded my horizons as far as cinema was going, and then, of course, when DVD came, that was like a revelation. We could see movies that a lot of film fans could maybe have to travel thousands of miles to a festival to be able to see, and it kind of really exploded. And I was a member of a forum, of Home Theater Forum, and there was a group of people who commented in a kind of foreign film section. There was a couple of people who are obviously very well educated on it. They had a lot of exposure. They've been doing it for a number of years. And so the rest of us kind of picked their brains of, what was good to see and avenues to go up to see films that we might enjoy. And so I developed it's called a listserv, a group of email where when somebody sends a question, it goes to everybody in the group, and if somebody responds, it goes to everybody. So I think there was about 13 of us only, and what we would do is we'd state what we bought. Oh, this week I bought so-and-so, because we didn't even know what was out in terms of foreign film. And then somebody said, well, I was able to buy something from this website that, I'd wanted to see this film for X number of years. So I thought, well, that's pretty good, because people were sharing this information, and the internet was relatively new. I created a web page that allowed people to see each other's purchases. I just used the covers. And it began to form little collections of people. So we know what on one week, what one guy bought, and Darren bought this, and Doug bought this, and Nick bought that, and so we all learned from each other, and I don't know, it was just fun. I never even thought about reviewing. It wasn't in my lexicon of being able to things I'd be able to do for the group. But one of the guys in the group had thought of an idea of posting technically related information about not just the DVD and where to purchase it, but specifics about it. I remember going to a friend's house, and I took, I don't know if you know the silent film Broken Blossoms, and I bought a newer version of it, and my friend had an older version. I said, let's just look at these and see if there's any difference, not expecting that there would be any difference at all. It was a keynote title, I think, and there was a big difference. Like, one was obviously from a more restored source, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. And I shared this with the people in the group, and one of the guys said, why don't we start comparing? We've all got these DVDs. Some of us living in Norway, some are living in the U.S., some are, and we can see which is kind of the best release. And we set up a standardization for obtaining the screen captures, and this is way back. We we weren't a lab or anything. We were just a bunch of guys who got off on being able to technically share this information across, thousands of miles and being able to purchase. That was another beautiful thing about the internet is, I could buy stuff from all over the world of e-sellers that sold foreign films. And so then we could learn if it had English subtitles or if it was a good transfer or was a better one here, if I could buy the one from Italy or whatever. And so the site kind of born of that. I didn't even have a name. I just did it via an IP address, and it was really for just a small group of people. And it's funny about that small group of people because they all, not all of them, but many of them evolved out of DVDBeaver to do something else in the world of DVD and Blu-ray. One of them is Nick Wrigley. I don't know if you know, he started Masters of Cinema, or along with Tron Tronson and Doug Cummings. They were all members of our little email group. Anyway, that's kind of the way it started. And the format, one of the guys developed a kind of format that we really liked. It was kind of good, and so we kind of adopted that. And but life gets in the way of a lot of things, and eventually it kind of slowed down, and people got busy with their work and doing things. And anyway, so I just kind of did it as a part-time thing, and I had a website to save the captures and save the data, and so reviews developed along the lines of that. It wasn't specifics that I would give an opinion on the film. I would give an opinion on the audio quality or the video quality, or I'd state the extras, and you could see one had a commentary and maybe the other one did not. And and that's how we got started.
I mean, that's amazing that the internet has facilitated the ability to be a consumer of, or to compare against the different international releases. Now, what is a region-free player, and why do you need it?
Okay, well, back then, DVDs were, as they are with Blu-rays now, they were region-coded. And so in North America, they would be region 1. If you were in England, they'd be region, in Australia, they'd be region 2. And they'd have different video standards. There'd be PAL, which is in Europe, and we'd have NTSC, which is in North America, and we'd have even crossover that. So Japan might be region 1, but it would be PAL, or as opposed to us, which you used, and that was the broadcast standard for the television. So that was the standard of which the TVs were set up, was which the DVDs were encoded in, the what standard it was. So that was another factor to consider. But I mean, if you can imagine being a film fan of not Hollywood popular cinema, but this clandestine cinema of and wanting historicals and not being able to see it. I mean, stuff was not shown on TV at that. It could even be discussed, and it was many times, as, oh, by the way, at 3 a.m. TCM is playing XYZ if anybody wants to record it, just because we couldn't get a chance to see these films. They weren't on video. They weren't in another format. But when DVD came out, it just exploded. There was like a huge number of Asian films and Kurosawa films that we could, and the quality was not good. This was out of a site called Yes Asia, but they sold in North America and they sold worldwide, and allowed us to indulge. And it was like a thirst for wanting to see more of this and kind of educate yourself on world cinema. And it's the internet obviously opened the whole doors up for people to take the blinders off and access more of that. And that was even in the early days of that. And of course it only improved every year. And I remember stating that and this was 10 years ago plus, that this is the best time ever to be a film fan, because you have more access to any. I mean, it's probably true of many things. Of course, involved in entertainment. When you have the internet, it opens up all sorts of doors for you. So it was great, and just the group of people we had were able to share information, and I didn't perceive it as having an immense amount of value, certainly on a large scale, because we're only a handful of guys. We're just a handful of film fans, and then of course it expanded to be a few more and a few more. And then I was doing the website for, just as I wasn't even on a way to make money off it. There was no Google ads. I wasn't an Amazon associate to get a commission for when people clicked on the button, but I was doing it to such an extent that it was really occupying a lot of my work time when I should have been working. I'd realized the server was the costing money. It was my server itself. It was the time I was taking to do it after hours when I wasn't working, and so I requested, if everybody wants to do this, would you support me if I became an Amazon associate to receive income from people who clicked using it? Because Amazon was the primary method of people ordering stuff, and the response was a overwhelming yes. I'd never realized the site was I didn't even have a hit counter. I had no idea what this. So that's when it was given a name, and we kind of formalized a little bit. And it really wasn't so much me as I just had an army of guys kind of behind me who were really keen on sharing this information. Then it got published on DVDBeaver, and then, of course, many more people could see it. So it worked out as a very reciprocal relationship for a lot of people. It had value then. And then, of course, the advent of Blu-ray came with a much higher resolution, and that expanded that. So we'd already had, this is years of doing it. We had thousands of reviews and comparisons of using the screen capture method that was standardized, and we used it and there was many guys who contributed to that. I had a guy, Heinrich, in Denmark, and Gregory, a Russian kid, he's still a friend of mine in the U.S., and guys have been doing it for years, and not so much because it was a money-making proposition as much as they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the process of doing it, and we actually found with one of the guys in Scandinavia, it was actually very relaxing to, you enjoy the film and you want to have it in the best quality, and obtaining the screen captures and finding the correct frame to match the frame of a DVD from another part of the world or a Blu-ray was enjoyable. We enjoyed doing it, and so I think that was probably the basis of why it accrued some form of popularity and success, because we weren't driven to try to be rich. It was just because it was something that we enjoyed and got off on it, and it grew out of that. So
that it's an absolute great resource. I will tell you that anytime I go to make a more significant purchase when it comes to Blu-ray, I will always check your site to see what the best looking release is and what has the best extras.
Thank you very much. That's kind of you to say.
What are some of the major reviews that you've done? I saw you did the Bergman box, which was very informative, and that looked like a Herculean task. What are some other? Well, if you could talk about that one, and then also what are some other really big tasks that you have, or significant reviews that you have on the site?
Wow, that's a pretty difficult question. You nailed it with the Bergman set, just because it was so massive, and I certainly couldn't have done it alone. I'd got an employee about a year ago, Colin Zavitz, who has been great in assisting. He's a huge film fan. He was just a perfect fit for doing this, and so we worked extremely hard in grinding out all of those reviews and comparisons. But there's people who were very interested in it. This was Criterion, which was the greatest DVD production, Blu-ray production company, has the most following for people who are interested in that, because they really give the releases that deserve a justice that they need for in terms of image quality. They were the they started the advent of commentaries. They did that on Laserdiscs. So they've maintained that kind of high position. But what's been good is that there's a lot of competitive sites now, especially out of the UK and Europe. Arrow rose significantly. Indicator has been, which it's Nick Wrigley works for now. When he used to be just in the DVD-Beaver group 20 years ago, and he helped form Masters of Cinema, and he moved on to Indicator, which is probably the best ones, and most of their releases are region free, and it's probably the best one in Europe. It's like the Criterion of Europe. As far as individual reviews, that's tough. The site now has somewhere around 11,000 discs reviewed, and I think we've just almost eclipsed the 5,500 for Blu-rays. So it's almost half now our Blu-rays, which hasn't been around that long. But yeah, it's a full-time job for sure, and I like it. I can't even think of specific reviews or specific company. We try to cover everything that is sent to us now. I mean, it took a decade of reviewing stuff before companies felt comfortable to send us stuff, and I guess they saw the benefit of sending us the review discs because we were then able to expose it to a larger audience, which potentially would increase their sales. Yeah, we did a Ford at Fox box set that came out few years ago that was pretty big. We covered all of that, not in the same detail. We've increased the level of specific detail we do. It's like it's a formula now. It's not. We try to stray from what my goal in the site was. I didn't like to. I've seen it happen with other people who get into reviewing and they get a opposition, which of course is going to happen. You can't please everybody with your review. You might say you love it and somebody says, no, you're wrong, it's terrible, and the vice versa. So I don't want to get into that dynamic. Forums can be very difficult places for people to communicate. They can be very harsh, and so I just wanted to give factual information. That's why we go to the specifics of saying the bits and bytes and the time to the thousandth of a second as far as the Blu-ray is, and then we simply show the screen captures of a standard quality, so they would judge them against themselves. Everybody's system is different, so it might not look the same on the screen capture it does on your system, but they will all look the same in comparison to each other on your system, is the way we try to think of it. And so we would just use a review that we maybe agreed with in terms of the site, and often that would be the description that the Blu-ray company gave, especially if they were very serious about the release. For a while, I had Jonathan Rosenbaum writing articles for the site. I had enough money to pay him out of the commissions we'd received from Amazon, and I think he wrote maybe 10 articles. This was years ago, and I tried to do that myself, but what I've done in the past couple of years is we call them listing pages. So you take a genre that's maybe not overwhelming, like
pre-code or noir.
Yeah, pre-code or blaxploitation or
Atomic Age Mole Men from Planet Z.
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorite. I love the 50s and 60s sci-fi stuff. But yeah, there's so many you could go to. We recently Women in Prison and Giallo, which is hugely popular. And this is another amazing thing. I mean, it's Giallo films, which would be considered at some point, aside from the more famous Dario Argento, the famous ones, pretty clandestine. And you can't find this. You couldn't find this stuff. Like, it's never going to be on Netflix. A lot of these things. So there's some countries have actually adopted these. As Germany has some really great westerns that haven't come out yet American-made westerns that haven't come out in North America, and also lots of Giallo films that this is the Italian very stylistic kind of slasher horror films that came out basically in the 70s, and there's a following. So I created listing pages so I could list kind of all of them that were available on Blu-ray. That's what most of these people want, is they want, they really love a film. They said they love Fellini's Nights of Cabiria, and they just want to, what is the best release that has the best extras? So, if it has a commentary, I love the film now. I've loved it my whole life. And that's what the following essentially has. I think we've probably benefited from being a niche because of the advent of streaming and downloading and Netflix, that for popular films, people probably aren't buying Blu-rays too much. I can't imagine. I mean, there's always going to be people, but it's been reduced to like a collector phase, and the collectors are the people who are heartfelt about who want these films that they can't see in another way. That, you know, maybe sometimes these Blu-ray releases, there's only one digital release available in the world of this. So yeah, it's been a very positive experience in maintaining and communicating with other people. Like, we're all learning from each other, right? And so somebody will say something, even our Facebook group, that about this that I didn't know, and then shares with somebody else. And oh man, that's the beauty of the internet, isn't it? Is the sharing of information. It's done wonders for us. It's great, and I've been the conduit for a lot of it. You know, I'm not. I appreciate the people who follow it and are heartfelt and are more heartfelt than I am, and have been doing it for longer. Some of these guys, like, I used to have a contest weekly where I would post a little bit of a clip of a movie, and I got to try and get it so rare clips and brief, like a few seconds, and right away somebody would get it. Somebody would get it in email. And how can they, you know, it's like that name that tune type of thing, and people I can name that in one note, you know. They just name the tune. So yeah, that's always fascinating, and I like the communal aspect, I guess, of DVD. That's probably my favorite part of it, and that I'm able to do something that I love and I learn at, and you know, the money aspect of it has certainly been decreased in the past few years. We had a few years, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It was very good. Like, I thought, this is great. I'm doing something that I love, and it's supporting me. You know, I have 2 kids and a wife, and I could be able to do that. And then, you know, it slowed down significantly for a number of factors. We certainly have competition now. I don't think we have any serious competition in the comparison phase of doing that, of taking the diligent time to find this exact same frame of one Blu-ray release or DVD release, or matching them so that people can get a good judgment. I know there are a couple of sites that do that a little bit, but that's probably where we have found a little niche of followers that are keen and interested on that. So yeah, I always consider myself pretty lucky to have kind of fallen into this, and just kind of you know, I have a background in network administration, so that it helped me set up the server, and then, you know, HTML there's plenty of programs through that. So I figure that's probably a failing of the site now, is that I've essentially done it almost all but by myself in terms of the back-end maintenance of the site and the creation of it and the formatting. And it probably needs a facelift and an upgrade. But again, these things cost money, and I don't feel like we're making enough money right now to be able to do things like that. We did set up a Patreon page at the end of last year before Christmas, and it's been good. These guys are great. Our following is just wonderful bunch of people. Really, the ratio of kind of, you know, nasty jerks to good people is, you know, there's one in a couple of hundred. Really, people are genuinely nice and supportive, and like you said, you like the site. That's all positive. That's all good, and that makes me continue doing it. And you know, I did the same. People would donate through PayPal, and I have a little PayPal logo at the bottom of every review that I guess hardly many people see. But every once in a while, somebody would donate and say something. And I remember there was a time where I wasn't making enough money. Like, I wasn't making enough money to maintain the site and do it. And so I just said to everybody, listen, guys, if you want me to continue, I gotta, you know, make some more money from doing this. And I got a whole bunch of donations in PayPal. I mean, like, a lot of money. And I said, great, I'm gonna commit to you guys, and I'm gonna continue. This was, again, 7 or 8 years, no more, 10 years ago. And I said, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna do the best I can to make the site the best I can and continue working on it. And I got a little obsessive with the work aspect, because I loved seeing new releases. So a new film would come from, you know, Criterion or somebody in the mail. That would meet the postman practically at the door. I would watch it immediately, and I want to tell the world about it. I want to tell them the quality of the release, and the commentary was good, or the sound quality dropped a little bit here, was really solid throughout, or was consistent, or whatever. So, you know, it was a two-way street. I guess I was feeding myself a little bit of at the same time. But Yeah,
But
the whole thing's been positive. I just, as I say now, it's just hurting a little unfair, as are many businesses. I'm sure I'm certainly not the only one that's hurting in terms of financial aspects. But we try our best, and we're going to struggle through and see, if we can kind of turn it around in some manner.
I would like to point out, though, that you say you follow the formula and it's just the screen captures, but there are a few things that I'd like to mention. One is that if you tell me it's a must-own in the release, I will almost certainly go out and purchase it because I know it's going to be a quality experience. The second thing is there are movies that I would have never thought to look at if not for your site. And when a woman ascends the stairs, you had that on your top 100 for a little bit. If that wasn't on there, I would have never seen that film. I love that film. And also, I haven't made it all the way through this one, but I would have never thought that movies like Man's Castle would even exist, let alone that it would be available. And because the pre-code site, I found out about that. And so I just think I think it's more than comparisons on your site. I definitely the editorial is highly appreciated because I think you've seen so many of these that you have a very refined perspective.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of you to say. I would probably disagree in that I don't know that I'm the most discerning. What I think what you're appreciating, and I strive. This is the part of the site that I strive to the best, is that even if we don't cover the release, is that people need to know what's available and what's not available. So in the listing pages of the Save Pre-Code, you will find things that we haven't reviewed. It'll say a little button says not reviewed yet. It's impossible to review everything, right? Sure. But I appreciate that if I have a very positive experience from it, and you've had a positive experience too from a similar film, that we may have a synergy. We may share the same opinion, but it can also be the opposite, that if somebody says, well, that guy said he likes it, and the last time I saw that film, I hated it. So, you know what I mean? Like it encourages people to join the community who have similar likes and dislikes, the tastes. So yeah, I think in general, the niche probably pushes a little back on popular Hollywood blockbuster type releases and gravitates more to older, especially myself. I would say we call it vintage cinema. Pre-code would be a perfect example of that. And just to be able to see these films that can be, 80 years old, and they can speak with surprising off-color topics, because they really had no censorship back then, and so they obviously took advantage of that. A Woman That Ascends the Stairs is an amazing film, of course. And see, I'm only exporting that because I got it exposed to me by somebody. I bought the VHS of that. I was buying VHS tapes from New Yorker because they had all those titles in their thing, and they weren't on DVD yet. So I was still trying to watch stuff that I really, really wanted to see, and Mizoguchi and many others that I was supposed to. And that's why we love a company like Criterion, because they're Janus. They have so many of these titles in their catalog, and that they can bring out. And obviously they wait till they have it restored correctly. They don't want to, hopefully in 4K, so it looks like as good as it can. And yeah, see, I remember reading Roger Ebert and him stating about this foreign film that he thought was great. I think Pauline Kael read the same thing. It was The Bicycle Thief, right?
Right.
And I'd never seen this. I was 12 or something. I'd never seen The Bicycle Thief, and then of course when I got older, I was able to watch it, and was like everybody else who sees it, is like blown away. It's like the stepping stone into foreign film for a lot of people. And so it wasn't Gary of DVDBeaver that maybe I did expose it by reviewing it, but as long as well as 10 other titles, but it was Roger Ebert exposing it to me, or Pauline Kael exposing it to me, that I was able to. So I'm constantly standing on the shoulders of other people who are. There was a guy in our group, Pascal Aquarillo. He runs, I think it's called filmref.com, and oh man, he is deeply ensconced in this, probably more so than, well, certainly anybody on the net that I could cite off the top of my head. And it's people like that it gets filtered down so that other people, and what I like about the concept of DVD Beavers is that exact same thing, is if I'm able to expose you to something because I was exposed to it by somebody else, and you have a real positive film experience in doing it, then it's very gratifying. It's very gratifying because I remember the enjoyment I got out of being exposed to something else and then seeing it, and then we have a discussion about with somebody else in our group or online, or and it enhances the appreciation of the film. Like you can watch a film cold without knowing, and that's the way I actually prefer to watch film, is because I don't want to get preconceptions and then get disappointed if I'm get overwhelmed by everybody saying, oh, this is the greatest film, and then I watch it and say, you know what, geez, I was expecting a little bit more out of that. So I like to kind of go in cold, and then when I do, then I'll try to read everything I can so I learn about the film, and then I could speak with a bit of confidence to somebody else to say, you know what, this was great because it was X and Y's last film, and the cinematographer was like this, and this was valuable, and blah blah blah. And then I can also make the statement about the digital release, whether it has value or it doesn't have value, or what I would have done for this. So like I say, it's certainly again, I just feel like the conduit for a lot of other information that I've been exposed to. I don't really feel there's anything special about me. I'm just lucky in a position I'm able to do that. The internet is great for research, right? It's the greatest library in the history of mankind for us to search stuff. And so we see information, and I'm able to expose it maybe to a larger audience. And the good thing about it is it's pure capitalism. If people didn't find value in it, well, then they wouldn't come. Right. And if they do, then they do come. So it's pretty easy to gauge that, is people seeing that now. Like I said, there are other reasons now why we think we're just in a glut of entertainment with YouTube and everything else. And it's hard to watch something. It's probably the news, the political news cycle, and whatever's going on. We're just being bombarded with stuff. And the movies can be an avenue of escape where, especially if it's an old film or, like you said, a foreign film, just you stating A Woman Ascends the Stairs makes me think about the movie, and it comes back in flashbacks, all the things I loved about it. And so it's a respite for, antidote for the current climate of we don't seem to be able to relax too much anymore. It seems to be harder and harder in the West to just kind of calm down, relax. So you turn off the lights, you have your own little home theater. It doesn't have to be crazy, and you sit down in the dark and you watch a film, and it centers you again. I think it brings you back to where we are, instead of living this constant online. I mean, we're all addicted to it, and to some degree. I got 2 kids, and they're sitting on their iPad right now, and they're playing games. Like, everybody's addicted to this, and so it's the way of stepping back. I mean, it's not like turning off all of the electronic stuff and going living in the woods, but it's still at least it's a step away from this overwhelming experience of online experiences that we're I mean, it's good. I mean, it's choice, right? That's certainly.
I mean, I will say that I feel like time has changed in the past couple of years. That things keep hitting more and more frequently that are alarming, and so to have the relaxation of just sitting down and watching 90 minutes or 2 hours of something that was made with quality in mind is an experience that I treasure whenever I do it.
Yeah, and I think I would suspect that you're like, see, the thing about kids nowadays, I'm talking kids, I'm talking, in their 20s, and everything is accessible to them online, so they don't need a physical media like we like. Yeah. I have a library, right? I have a library of films. Right. I have what I call my most rewatched films, because those ones I'm going to keep, and we try to give away the others or sell them, or there's just too many. I think I had 15,000 discs at one point, and then I had shelves built on other shit. But the idea then is giving it away to somebody else. Like you can just gather dust on your shelves. What do I need that so much for? But there's ones that I keep and I watch, and then the biggest process of the night, and maybe you've seen it yourself, is deciding what you want to watch. That's your big decision.
Yeah.
I want to watch. I've got 2 hours now. I really want to watch something, before I go to bed. And what's it going to be? And it can take, a half hour to make that decision. So.
I would say I think that there's an argument for keeping a library in the sense that, especially with like Filmstruck going away, that you retain a certain cut and a certain quality of a film that you might not be able to get anywhere, especially with some of the streaming services bringing up some movies and then discontinuing them afterwards and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah. Like I'd said, in the old days, there'd be films where you would have to travel to the Venice Film Festival to see this film that you wanted, right? And they're not the premium downloads or
right.
So it costs you a bit of postage from getting it from Europe or something, and then you actually have it. And because there's things, I don't know, this is a common circumstance, but you go through your work in the day and you hear something on the radio and your mind says, that reminds me of a movie. Actually, I'd really like to see that tonight.
Yeah.
And if you're capable of remembering what that was by the time night rolls around, you've got it right there at your fingertip. Like you crave seeing Vertigo again. Like I just really want to see Vertigo tonight, and it's right there for you in great quality and as good a quality as people saw probably in a theater. And you've got it in your own comfort of your own home where you can pause it and go get a beer or whatever you want to do. And it's like paradise. It's really just such an amazing ability. We are living in the best of times in many senses. And yeah, so I think it's becomes a universal thing for people to be able to do that is guys of a certain age, I guess, who don't expect everything to be online or aren't distracted that much, that they have a place where they can go, a library, and make the choice and sit back and absorb it. A lot of the stuff too is nostalgic in that you remember music it can be very similar. You like music because it reminds you of a good time in your life. You're young and happy and free and carefree and not as many responsibilities. And so the movies can be the same way. Especially we have a lot of guys who are into like 80s horror, which I politely name schlock. A lot of it is not a lot of it's not to my taste. It's bad cinema. But when you mentioned about the Mole Men, the 50s and 60s sci-fi, a lot of that was bad cinema, but I still like it. I remember, I wasn't around back then. I wasn't even born, but I remember being a kid in the Saturday afternoons and being a matinee with stuff like Tarantula or, and being able to watch those films when I was 10 years old and, just enjoying the heck of it. So maybe there's a bit of nostalgia that for me as well that enhances the whole experience of film, that why we like it and why we don't. Because of that too, it's very hard to make a rationale of saying that something is good or something is bad. There's a quote of Shakespeare says nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And you can also say that in terms of you change your opinions as you grow. You could say 10 years hence, I just don't, I never got into Godard. I just cannot get into this guy's cinema. Maybe I like, One Life to Live. I like Weekend, Pierre LeFou, but boy, some of this stuff is, and then what happens is you mature as a filmmaker, as a film person and a cinephile, and you watch it and then you start to gain an appreciation for it. So it's the fact of keeping your mind open, especially when you got foreign film. You're not just looking at films that come out of 10 square miles of Hollywood in the studios. You're looking at films that come out of everywhere in the world, and God, that is expands your horizons to no end to be able to find stuff. And of course, if you keep an open mind, you're always going to find things that really reach you, that really touch you on a personal level, whether it's Bergman or un outrun, or it doesn't matter. If it works for you, then it works for you. So it draws that out of you. And Bergman himself has made a lot of quotes about the effect of film. There's really nothing like it. It's a medium that is artistic. It can be personal. It can probe your soul like nothing else. We can't, the generalized opinion of a lot of the people who follow DVDBeaver, and we don't do a lot of modern films. There's nothing wrong with modern films, but I think the premise of it is thinking that if it's good, we'll know about it in 5 years or 10 years. We don't need to go to the water cooler and be the first one to say, I went and saw so-and-so last night, and, I thought it was great. But time is really the judge of all of that, isn't it? It's going to be whether something is good or bad is whether it's good 30 years from now or 40 years from now or 10 years from now, not whether it's just happens to be the flavor of the week that's come out with, whatever it was. Now, I'm as susceptible to a lot of that stuff as well. I try not to be, but it's hard in this modern world. We get exposed to both stuff, and I see films. Wow, I'd really like to see that, and then of course you see it, and you can end up being underwhelmed or disappointed because it's not maybe to the expectations you had in your mind, right? That you were anticipating. Because I guess you do get discerning, because if you've seen many great films, you appreciate the subtleties of some of the directors of the past, where everything is so overt now and so in your face and so kind of obvious. We have a kind of running joke with a lot of the guys is, I don't know if you ever saw Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and well, he's in the mud, and the creature can't see him because it reads heat or whatever. Right. And so, but it's not enough for them to show that with the camera. Then Arnold has to say, he's all by himself. He says, "Can't see me because of the mud." Like, what are we, idiots? We got it, Arnold. And not that I dislike Predator. I like Predator. I'm gonna get the 4K UHD of it one day and see it. So yeah, I remember when DVD first came out. I watched. My wife was a nurse and was working all these crazy shifts, and I stayed home and I watched 13 DVDs over the course of one weekend before I had to go back to work on the Monday. And I tell people that story, and they think this guy is nuts. He's crazy. But no, I loved the medium. I loved the experience of film, and I guess that reflects in other people who are similar. And like I say, there's guys who have it to a much more stridently than myself. I'm not. I like to consider myself normal. It's funny when you start speaking to people. You're gonna, and you say, I'm in film. I like film, doing this, and say, what are your favorite films? And they start telling you, and they get passionate. Like everybody has this reception to film. It touches people. I mean, there'll be different films in different ways, but. Another saying we always use is that if you only eat bananas, then you can't say that banana is the best fruit. You say the banana is fruit because you've had oranges and you've had apples and you have peaches and you have plums and you have pears. And then it gives you a wider range. So the more you expand for your own film experiences, the better chance you're going to be able to discern something that's great. And you know what? The good thing about film is you can always find something in film. Like I have my next door neighbor here. I give him whole baskets of old DVDs that he takes up to his cottage, and he says, my wife says I'll watch the wallpaper. Like I'll just watch anything, and he watches it, and he's getting something out of it. Even if it's relaxation, he's getting it, but he's still getting something out of it. And they all, you think about that. Somebody took the time to make this, to write this, to produce this, to act in it, to star in it. This isn't a haphazard thing. It deserves some sort of respect, and I think that's also what I try to do with DVDBeaver. I have a little pad beside me. If I see a certain scene that I think is would make a really good screen capture, that's indicative of the experience of the film, whether it's a mystery or horror or thriller, and I'll write down the time in the little booklet so that when I do the screen captures, I can hopefully find that again and do. And I really think the film deserves it. The film deserves to be represented a certain way. That's why I like the posters. Why we put posters in the reviews to show that, because man, there's a lot of effort went into these posters. I'm talking about the olden days more so than obviously now, but I mean, if you take a look at the credit sequences, the Saul Bass, these you have to know the film to accept and appreciate all of these little things. So all of the work and effort that goes into that deserves respect, whether you like the film or whether you don't like the film. I mean, I remember having girlfriends in the past who would say, "Oh, I don't like black and white film." Well, our relationship didn't last too long, actually. Though. And I've had a number of friends. I mean, smart, intelligent, highly intelligent people in great professions. Well, we don't like subtitles. Well, you're essentially cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you're the one who's suffering from this, not that I'm not suffering because you don't like subtitles. You're suffering because you don't like subtitles. And I see it's something you get used to in a matter of minutes of watching a film, of a different language. And anyway, everybody's different, I suppose.
I would like to just have one final question, which I'm mostly curious on, which is, you touched on this a little bit, that you have a 4K set. I mean, do you feel that 4K, everything should be gone over and released in 4K? Do you see enough of a difference in the 4K releases that it's a must-have? Is the high dynamic range just enough for color films, maybe not black and white, as opposed to, say, a 4K restoration that then is released on a Blu-ray?
Yes. Yes, I do. I'll tell you, as for The Office, we're Colin and I are now, which is actually close to my home. It's kind of a makeshift office. And so we set it up, and we try to be as objective about it. But you don't want to be swayed by other people saying, "Oh, this is amazing, this is amazing." And I don't like that at all. It actually usually pushes me in the opposite direction. So, we took a long time and experienced this, and absolutely it is. Now, one point I will make about that is it's not going to be every film that benefits. What the films that benefit the most are 70 millimeter films. So when
Playtime, Lawrence of Arabia,
absolutely. And the one we recently watched, Bridge Over the River Kwai, we're in the process of trying to do a review. The HDR makes it very difficult to obtain screen captures because people are seeing it on a monitor that is not HDR capable, so a computer monitor. So it really throws a monkey wrench. Now, there are ones that have, and we have done ones like we did with Big Lebowski and Saving Private Ryan, which I thought we gave an accurate representation, but we have to give this big caveat to say that, it looks even better than this. Like, this isn't the best, it's because your monitor isn't even as good as being able to express the best of it. But I will tell you, everything through the system that I have now, which is this Oppo 4K HDR player and the big screen Samsung TV, is amazing. It almost looks too good. Like there's no flaws, there's no weaknesses, and because of it, it's almost that you're more overwhelmed by the image than the film, and that can be a difficult process to overcome. How you overcome it is repetitive viewing. So when I know there was a bit of a controversy with us over 2001 Space Odyssey's colors. There's some guys who just, those aren't the way the colors looked. I remember the way the colors looked years ago when I watched it 50 years ago. And so there's a bit of discrepancy, but I can only tell you that, I watched both the original Warner DVD, which wasn't encoded that robustly, and the HDR. HDR is amazing. It's like almost watching a film for the first time, or at least, and I've seen it 70 millimeter on the big screen. It's overwhelming for sure. But again, doing it from the comfort of your home, watching it in this higher resolution quality and seeing the grain and seeing all the aspects of it is overwhelming. It really is better. I don't know if that format has flourished as much as the adopters would have liked. It's unfortunate that it's going to appeal more to a lot of modern films, that are maybe, and comedies. I have a bit of it's not that I have an issue with comedies, but with comedies and image quality, I don't think it really goes together. It's because it doesn't improve the jokes really, or it doesn't make. But if it's Antonioni, if it's Lake Lissay, or like I'd be amazed to see it, because that's such a visual experience. The visuals in the film are affecting you as you watch the film. It's not just following the plot, which is leading in a certain way or being limited in a certain way to get your mind thinking. It's these amazing visuals and the sound. I mean, the sound quality is as well. A lot of people, especially years ago in home theater, sound was the big thing. They had these huge subwoofers. They were like the size of giant Tootsie Rolls sitting around, and so because sound to them was a big thing, especially in action films. You're hearing careening bullets around your ears in the surround. was a big thing. No, I didn't find that as big a thing as the visuals, especially of the directors that we revere the most, the Brezons and Antonioni and these guys.
I have to say most of the stuff I watch is either mono or stereo.
Yeah, and I agree, and because that's probably the way it was shown originally. In the theater, they didn't have surround effects, and I'm not even dismissing that as much. It's just it's not part of our niche. I took my kids to see, I think it was Toy Story 3 in 3D. That was an amazing experience. Again, I don't, it's not on the same comparable level of the way it's going to touch you as another. I have a friend of mine who'd said, and he'd go and see these movies with all the lights and flash, and he'd say, it doesn't penetrate your skin. So it was these films that we watch that they get under your skin and they stay with you for a long time, and you can think about the characters like days later. You're thinking about these characters. Where if you go and see you're walking out of the theater after Arnold has beaten up the alien or whatever, and it's gone. The experience is gone. The lights and flashes, your retina, your eardrums have rattled through the amazing sound and the amazing stuff, but it doesn't stay with you. And it's disposable. It's almost like a Bic lighter. It's a disposable form of entertainment. And not that there's anything bad about that either. That's what people are looking for when they go and see it. They know it's not going to be something that resonates with them weeks and days and months and years afterwards. But I think for the film fan who requires that, they're obviously looking at a different experience. They're looking for a more in-depth experience and one that penetrates under their skin, right? And it gets to them and it touches them and it relieves them. And I don't know. I could say some very outlandish things, but I won't want to offend anybody. That they make you a better person. Sometimes these films, they expand your emotional. They just.
Well, I mean, especially like The Bicycle Thief. I mean, that's a movie that certainly has to have you asking internal questions.
Absolutely, that's a perfect example, and.
Yeah.
Expand what we do in life, especially for a lot of these foreign films, is how you become less prejudicial about another experience. Is that if you see that it has similarities to your own, and there's universal similarities in people who have children, they want the best for their children, whether they're living in Kenya and the film is made there, or they're living in Australia. So it's not like these are foreign people now. They're the same as us. They're the same. We can see that through the avenue of film that we share a common thing. We share something in common, which bonds us. So we bond to those characters, and yeah, they're really. I don't have when I'm asked to list for my banking what's your favorite thing, and of course I'll say film, but because I think about like I played sports and I did lots of other things and dated women, all these stuff, but there really isn't anything like it as a pastime, and to cling to it now. Like I'll watch sports, I'll watch Toronto sports, I'll watch some tennis, the Australian Open is on, but it's just not the same. It's just there's nothing that impacts you quite like that. Those film experiences that you carry with you for years and decades and maybe your whole life. And that's why I think those people are the ones that we hope to bring into our circle that eventually just naturally kind of gravitate towards us as well.
That was Gary Tews from the website DVDBeaver.com. Be sure to check out Gary on Patreon under the name DVDBeaver. Thanks for listening.